Nick Kyrgios' dream run at Wimbledon came to an end with a reality check, which remains a common occurrence by the Big Three in Grand Slam finals. But the Australian isn't hanging around disappointed and is already looking ahead to the final Grand Slam of the year, the US Open. He'll be taking part in the Western and Southern Open after receiving a wild card. Let's take a closer look. First up, Kyrgios to play in Cincinnati. There's little doubt that Kyrgios was punching above his weight throughout Wimbledon and managed to surprise quite a few with that dream run. After a disappointing defeat in the final, it seems that the 27-year-old has already taken the first steps in getting over the heartbreak and wants to be in good shape for the US Open. If we're being honest, that's the best way of staying at the top. Kyrgios has been provided the opportunity to make a return to action by earning the Cincinnati wild card, and that'll see him feature in the Western and Southern Open. He's an extremely decent player on the hard courts and has been particularly decent in this Masters tournament, as the man from down under became a finalist in 2017, losing to Grigor Dimitrov. He'll be hoping to go one better this time around and would love to ride the high of his Wimbledon success. Yes, making it to the final of a Grand Slam is an amazing achievement, which shouldn't be underrated, and as Nick said himself, nobody expected him to ever make the final of a Grand Slam anyway, so it's a win for him. Now he can use that experience to prepare for the US Open by featuring in Cincinnati. And was the Wimbledon loss a blessing in disguise? Nick's known for his explicit way of handling the traditions, and he doesn't have much regard for certain rules and regulations in the tennis scene. He likes to be blunt about things, so you wouldn't expect him to find positives in a loss, but he's done just that, and it's the most Kyrgios way imaginable. In an interview with City Open, the Wimbledon finalist revealed that every kid who picks up the racket wants to play and win Wimbledon. He called the Grand Slam at the All England Cup as the biggest title ever, but went on to claim that he would have gone to lose all motivation that he had if he'd won the Wimbledon title. We've watched him play for nearly a decade now, and we can't lie, it's probably true. Kyrgios already misses Grand Slams even when they aren't massive injury concerns, and if he were to win Wimbledon, it's pretty easy to imagine him losing any motivation of coming back to the sport, because for him, he would have done the unimaginable. It would have been a lot like James Hunt winning the F1 World Championship. They've proven themselves and the world wrong. There isn't anything else left to do. Kyrgios added that the stress of taking part in a Grand Slam and putting together a run isn't easy. He said, "You can lose a Grand Slam in a day, but you can't win one. It takes so many days," and that's why his respect for the Big Three has probably increased tenfold after that run, with the biggest indication being his new bromance with Novak Djokovic. But it's not all rainbows and roses for Nick. Making it to the biggest final is easily the biggest achievement of Kyrgios' underachieving career, given his incredible talent, but it's likely that he also reached the lowest point of his life during the Wimbledon tournament, if the allegations are proven to be true. During his Wimbledon run, Kyrgios was making headlines for his usual conduct on court and in interviews, but it was extremely surprising when his ex-girlfriend Chiara Passari accused him of domestic violence and took him to court over it. It's okay to see Kyrgios being the different one on court, but it was a huge shock to see the Australian being involved in something so serious. The investigation is still ongoing, and there isn't much to talk about, except that we hope that whoever is at fault during all this fiasco gets the maximum punishment for it. Some fans believed that it's not uncommon to expect Kyrgios' anger to spill over into his personal life, knowing his conduct on court, but it's unfair to say anything before it's been proven by the authorities. Still, while the investigation is ongoing, we are extremely proud of Miss Passari for coming out and talking about the incident. It must have been a traumatic experience. For Kyrgios, his preparations for the US Open might get disrupted because he's got a date in the ACT Magistrates Court on the 2nd of August, which could get in the way of his warm-up tournaments in the US. If Nick is proven guilty, we hope the ATP takes some action too, and doesn't just ignore the problem at hand, which seems to be growing excessive. We still haven't forgotten their terrible response regarding the Alex Zverev or the Nicolas Basilashvili cases. Lastly, can we expect another deep run for Kyrgios? Well, if the there's one thing we can say for sure regarding Kyrgios, it's that he's consistently inconsistent. The past would suggest that the Australian hasn't got it in him to produce a string of good performances and then follow them up with multiple others. But then again, we also wouldn't have thought that he'd be 2 sets away from winning Wimbledon. Kyrgios is as mercurial as they come, but his desire and motivation for winning big also remains a lot less than, say, John McEnroe. He was as eccentric as Kyrgios, but his desire for winning usually trumped his bad boy persona, and that's why he managed to win multiple Grand Slam titles throughout his career. We can say that Nick is more or less cut from the same cloth, but he'll need to be motivated beyond belief to have any chance of repeating his heroics from Wimbledon at the US Open. But it's also not beyond him to do it. Kyrgios usually steps up his game when playing at the highest level, and that's been a common feature of his career so far. He also likes to prove people wrong, and this might just be the best moment for doing so. In fact, the last 2 Grand Slam titles not won by the Big Three were in the US Open, with Dominic Thiem and Daniil Medvedev winning their first Grand Slams in the last few years. It might just be the slightly easier major to win, and if Kyrgios can string together a few good performances and get lucky with the draw, who knows what's possible. Now, in other news, starting with Djokovic's US Open hopes. Novak Djokovic, due to his vaccination status, has been in the middle of the news throughout the year. His decision to not take the vaccine has led to him missing out on participation in the Australian Open and could potentially lose the chance of featuring in the US Open too, although he hasn't given up hope on featuring in the tournament and remains optimistic that he'll be granted special dispensation to play. The current US President, Joe Biden, is coming under a lot of pressure from multiple politicians to allow Djokovic to take place in the US Open next month. Ironically, President Biden tested positive for coronavirus for the second time. It would be a lot easier for everyone involved if the Serb superstar could simply take the vaccine and be done with the drama, instead of putting everyone at risk. Next, Sinner takes up Alcaraz clash in Umag final. The young stars of the tennis world will be in action on Sunday for the second time in the same month after their earlier clash at Wimbledon. Jannik Sinner of Italy is currently ranked at number 10, and he'll be taking on the new world number 4, Carlos Alcaraz. It should be an absolute cracker of a match, because there isn't any brighter talent in the world other than these two. Sinner, despite battling with injuries, has been phenomenal this year, and was a whisker away from setting up a semi-final clash against Nick Kyrgios at Wimbledon. During his run, he defeated Alcaraz and registered his first win in their head-to-head, which Alcaraz leads 2-1 going into their final at Umag. On the other hand, Alcaraz has somehow enjoyed even more success this year and will be hoping to win his 5th title of the year in Umag, where he's the defending champion as well. Alcaraz had a tougher time during his semi-final clash against Giulio Zepari and had to battle it out over 3 sets to make it to the finals. Sinner was impeccable as he destroyed fellow Italian Franco Agamenone 6-1, 6-3. With Goran Ivanisevic expected to be in attendance at the Goran Ivanisevic Stadium, who are you backing to win the title in Croatia? Lastly, former world number 1 Ash Barty ties the knot. Ashley Barty may not have watched tennis since her retirement earlier this year after winning the Australian Open, but we haven't forgotten her. The former world number 1 has announced her marriage to long-term partner Gary Kasich, and that means her whirlwind 2022 just got even crazier. If coming into the Australian Open as the favorite wasn't enough, Barty went on to win her home Grand Slam and then immediately announced her retirement as well. Since then, she's gone on to try her hand in golf too, and has already played pro cricket. But it seems that she's done with competitive sports and just wants to enjoy married life for now. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Kyrgios has it in him to win the US Open this year? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.